Hello, everyone, and welcome back to your favorite podcast, Traders of Money, where we dive into all aspects of trading and the beautiful people behind what we're doing. Today, I'm very, very excited to introduce you to David Brewer. David, how are you doing today?
I'm on top of the world, thank you.
It is outstanding to hear. Now, David, we met in a portfolio analyst meeting through the Fivers. You wanted a little bit more information about your trading account, and I found your story so incredibly inspiring, and it got my curiosity through the roof to learn more. You are 78 years old, and you are trading with the ambition to fund a charity. That is outstanding. How did this come about? Let's run us through who David Brewer is and how we came to meet.
Well, if I may be allowed to make a slight correction,
Mhm.
I'm 78 years young, not 78 years old.
Apologies.
I'm planning the next 42 years. I expect to live to 120,
Fantastic.
and I want to do all the good I can whilst I can, and that is my object in life is to try and help people to have a good life.
Why? I've got to ask, where has this come from? Where is this passion and this humility, the humanity? Where has this come from?
Well, I'm not ashamed of it. I just don't want to ram it down anybody's throat the fact that
Hmm.
I'm a Christian,
Hmm.
um, which when I was 9 years old, I realized that I was born in sin and that I needed a savior. And the way to do that was to repent of my sin and to accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. By accepting Him, I yield my life and He lives His life through me. So it's no longer I that live, but Christ who lives in me, to quote a well known Bible verse. And He is the one that gives me total satisfaction. He gives me total peace in life because I know my sins are forgiven. I have no guilt complex, and it, that there. I've heard people um, say before today that they have always had a love for money. I have never had a love for money. I've always had a love for people,
That's fantastic.
and my love for people sometimes requires money, and that will bring us at some point to the fivers and to trading. But I don't love money. I've never loved money. Um, I just have a love for people and what I need to reach those people.
Outstanding. Outstanding. You couldn't have a better motivation. So talk me through it. You're 9 years old. You've committed yourself to Christ. Where did you go with your career? How did your life unfold after that?
Um, it was suddenly changed. I was just brought up on
Hmm.
a farmer's son. I left school at 15 years old and worked non-stop for 50 years. That that basically was life in a nutshell. Um, that schooling was uh, an essential necessity by the government. Um, Putting it bluntly, um, my father thought that children were born to run the farm,
Hmm.
and so as soon as I came home from school, um, I would be straight into my work clothes and putting the milk in the bottles, milking the cows, etc. And I would, I never thought anything about it. I had no resentment. That was life, and that's how farmers lived their life in the 1940s and 50s. And so it wasn't a case of I had to do it. It was the norm.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just, well, it just fitted like a slipper, really. You just fitted straight in there, and you knew that, well, it was the normal. It's the way life is, and you paddled on as life should.
Yeah. Now I had two brothers, both of them older than myself. My eldest brother was, whilst he was a good farmer, he was a true entrepreneur, and he was maybe 7 years older than I am.
Hmm.
And so when I left school at 15, he was 22 or thereabouts. Um, he wasn't needed on the farm when I came, or we would be overstaffed. And so he had begun um, animal feed manufacturing business in the stable of the farm. And it had grown so rapidly that um, by the time I was 20, um, he had a turnover of 250,000, which doesn't
Wow.
sound much today,
Mm.
but in 1960 it was quite a sum.
Hmm.
And he had two depots as well as the manufacturing place, um, two in Lancashire and one in Cumbria. And one night he'd been to a meeting. He'd been taking part in this church meeting, and on his way home, um, he met a truck at the wrong side of the road that wiped out his life. And so at the age of 21, I was automatically just thrown into taking over this business without any warning. And that turned my life upside down and changed it dramatically.
As I can imagine, I'm terribly sorry for your loss, and I can imagine the element of grief, but also that element of responsibility that all of a sudden was bestowed on you. How did you go about that? How did you manage to take control of this business, and was it a success? Did you manage to keep it going?
Um, yes, um, to quote a phrase that my father often used, it was pull your socks up and be a man. And so I had to do that overnight, literally,
Hmm.
and just be the person that it needed me to be. Um, I learned a lot at the family expense, but it also gave me a great sense of responsibility to the family because it wasn't just anybody's business, it was a family business.
Hmm. Outstanding. I'm thoroughly grasped in your life right now, David. I'm well and truly. I can picture everything. I can see everything. Carry on for me. Where do we lead after this? How long did you run that business for your career? How long until you moved on? How did that go?
I ran it for approximately 6 or 7 years,
Okay.
and times were changing, rapidly changing, where the farmers didn't use as much animal feed, um, and the small farms were being taken over by the large farmers. Um, and so there wasn't the same requirement for as many. See, in the city that I belong to, um, when I was running the business, in the 1960s, there were, I think, there was 14 different animal feed um, retailers going around the farmers, and now there isn't one
Mm.
in the city. They're travelling from Yorkshire, they're travelling from Staffordshire. Um, because of the motorway network, the world is a smaller place, and so things changed very rapidly. Um, as I've heard a lot of people say, that in this um, last um, 80 years, there have been more changes to civilization than in the previous 500 years.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so, yes, so back to your question, was about 8 years. And when we chose to wind down and to sell the business, um, I felt unnecessary at the time. I felt that my whole life had fulfilled its purpose. And there I was at only 30 years of age. What do I do? Because I hadn't been to university, I hadn't been to a college, I hadn't um, followed any other career other than what I'd been sucked into. And so that caused me to seek several lines of opportunity. Because I'd been brought up on a farm, I had an instinct for self employment, to
Hmm.
be my own boss, to be not because I didn't want to take orders, not at all. Um, it was just the way life had always been. I'd never known any other life than make my own decisions and carry my own can. Um, if something didn't go right, then the book stops here. And that was the ethos that we came through. Um, that was mixed with a good sense of Christian belief,
Hmm.
that there was true integrity and there was fulfillment of all biblical principles. And so that, you know, um, the Bible says, give a just weight. So in the animal feed business, we gave a just weight. Um, we couldn't go too much over the top, or else they said that we were breaching the Trades Descriptions Act, by
Hmm.
saying this is a 100 weight. If you put an extra £10 in, then it wasn't a 100 weight. But, we always had to make sure that we did. You see, my mother was a Methodist lay preacher. I don't know whether you've heard of the Methodists.
I have not, no.
No, non-conformist denomination. Um, and my mother was a Methodist lay preacher, so we were very much steeped in um, church life, and we did a lot of work in the church because that was life, and
Hmm.
we enjoyed it. And as I said before, um, we knew that we had life, a life worth living. And you see, my belief, and everybody is entitled to a belief, but that also gives me the entitlement to have my belief. And my belief is that life is only a dressing room for eternity. And
Wow.
you need to, in this 100 years or 120 years that you live, is a very short period to prepare for an eternity. So we decide, you know, we have a rest reserved that will last for 1,000 times 1,000 years and a
Hmm.
thousand times more. And we will have plenty of rest. We will have plenty of time. Um, but we need to prepare because we can't change the route after we have ceased to live.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So run me through it. I mean, 40 years later, or almost 40 years later, where does Forex trading all of a sudden take place? Where did this pop up?
Um, it came about by um, when I came to 65 and drew the pension from the government. Um, I was then I asked if I could work on, um, but my boss said no. It's our one way of cutting down on staff by not making anyone redundant, but
Hmm.
by compulsory retirement. And so I thought, right, well, I have to make use of this time I have, because I didn't want to just rot away or
Hmm.
rust away. I wanted to do something that was constructive. And so, being a preacher in the church, um, I chose, I'll rephrase that, I was invited to go to Africa. And um, I went roughly twice a year for 3 or 4 weeks to different churches doing Bible teaching.
Hmm.
And I could never satisfy them. You see, Great Britain is a prosperous country, although there's a lot of complaints, there's a lot of people always being negative. It's very prosperous, and um, people have their 2.3 children, their 2 cars in the drive, you know, their um, 2 wages, etc., and they're totally satisfied. If you go to Africa, they have to walk maybe for 2 miles to get water from the stream that the cows have done the wee in, and then carry it home. They drink it and end up with typhoid.
Hmm.
That is basically life. There is no option because they need, they would dehydrate if they didn't drink. And as I was um, delivering these Bible teaching to these different churches, I saw this need, and I saw myself coming home, turning on the faucet or the tap, getting clean water and drinking. And there was no comparison. I thought, how can I enjoy such luxury when they have no say in the matter? They have no option, but they have to go and get dirty water from a stream, carry it home, and probably end up ill because there's insects and whatever in it. And so I said, I can continue to do Bible teaching as and when required, but why not um, drill holes and put a well, a pump on the top of the borehole, and the people can just come to a hole, pump the water, and get clean water out of the ground
Hmm.
instead of out of a stream. And so that was where the need came for money because, as I said earlier, I don't love money, I love people. But to do what my heart's desire is for the people, I need money. And this led me um, to market trading. I'd had a conversation on this subject for some time with a close friend of mine who is an archbishop. And we had both looked into the possibility of trading. And I've probably had about 2 years of playing about
Hmm.
with practice, sometimes um, real account, live accounts, and sometimes with demo accounts. Um,
Was
but
there ever a time over your career that you'd done investing? Obviously, you were thrown into a couple of different scenarios instantly and had to wear the slipper. But was there ever a time throughout your career in your 30s, 40s, even your 50s where you looked into the stock market, or even as you've lived through some of the great crashes, have you ever thought about investing during different times of downfall, or has it ever been on your radar, or you just never really looked at it?
yes, um, yes and no, really, because um, I thought it was a good idea to invest. Um, at that point, I didn't think of investing in the stock market.
Hmm.
I thought I would put it in property. And so um, I went over to East Lancashire where property was cheaper, where the mill towns and the mills had gone. And so there was quite a lot of unemployment. There was cheaper property. I bought two terraced houses for £4,500 each. So for £9,000, I had two terraced houses, which gave me a 33% return on capital investment.
Well done.
And in 3 years' time, they were paid for, and so I decided to sell them. I put them through a property auction, and they gave me 300% return on capital investment, although they've been paid for. And that was how, and I slowly went up to 9 properties. And when I got to, that was alongside of doing a full time job. I mostly worked a 100-hour week. Why people think that they should only do a 35-hour week, I have no idea. I was brought up with 6 days shalt thou labour and do all thy work, and the seventh is the Sabbath unto the Lord. You see, it came from my upbringing, and but yes, I was foolish in working 100 hours a week, um, but life was short, and it was a case of why leave till tomorrow what you can do today? That was my principle. Today, everybody thinks, well, why do today if you can leave it till tomorrow?
Yeah.
And a lot depends on the philosophy that you have been trained in as to whether or not you follow different principles.
I love that. I love that, and that is such a beautiful quote as well, and it's something so simple yet so powerful, which so many people listening to this can just take and use as motivation to push forward in whatever it is you're attempting to do, whatever wherever life is taking you. That aspect of life is not forever; it is short, and there is no point leaving something that needs to be done or can be done now till tomorrow, and especially falls true when you're working so hard to become a successful trader as well. So once you've acknowledged that you need money to fund the charity to deliver fresh water across Africa, and you've decided market trading was where you wanted to go, how did you begin to get involved?
How did I begin to get involved? Um, do you mean involved in the
In trading,
project
like,
of
how
water
did you begin to learn the intricacies of trading?
of trading? Right. I suppose through the Archbishop, our discussions and our um, dabbling um, with um, demo accounts and realizing that the potential was there.
Mm,
And it was how do we learn to do this thing, because I have never believed that it was easy money, get rich quick. Um, you can get rich, but you need to serve your time to it, just like any other job. You know, if you were a doctor, or I'll not name any more occupations, but there are those occupations where they are um, quite well off,
mm,
and um, but they have to serve their time to it. They have to go to university. They have to learn and uh, um, grow up the ladder to get advancement. And I realized that the same came about with trading, that I needed to learn it. And um, when I retired from manual work, I um, I suppose I gave away most of my investments to the church, not because they asked me to, but because I saw a need
mm-hmm,
and I thought it would do good work. And so my um, investments and my um, um, well, what I had inherited, my inheritance, um, has largely gone into helping people who need a present need rather than for a future date. Who knows if we will see 20 years' time? So I don't want to die and have on my tombstone the richest man in the graveyard,
mm,
because it'll be no use to me. And my children have grown their own businesses. They're more successful than I am. And I don't have to take care of my children. Whilst anything that I have, the house I live in, would go to my children. Um, I am not living to see how rich I can be, to be richer than the person next door. You know, if he wants to get a new car, that's fine with me. If I can manage with a second-hand car, and etc. So um, I just I saw the need to learn something that I thought I could do um, without a lot of manual work
Hmm.
because I don't feel capable of doing 100-hour week at the moment.
I dare say.
And so, you have to accept limitations.
Hmm.
And I'm healthy. Um, God has healed me of several diseases. He's done several miracles in my life, and I put the credit down to God because some of the things were incurable.
Hmm.
Um, and I've got good health. I walk 2 miles a day um, and things like that. And I don't have a pain in my body anywhere at 78. And I give all the credit to God because my health is in Him.
Do you still have a pain in your body while you trade? Because we know what trading can get like.
Um, I have gone largely through, I'll not say I'm all the way through, I've gone
Mm.
largely through the process. Trading in the zone has been a great help to me.
Mark Douglas.
Mark Douglas, and books like that. I've worked on these things, um, and um, my um, my system needs more working on. But no, the pain is certainly a lot less when I use trading accounts that are provided.
It tends to help. It definitely tends to help when you can reduce your risk and trade with a little bit more freedom, a little bit less worry. I do see a very positive return rate from a lot of beginners when they can distance themselves from that monetary value. Has the experience of learning to trade currencies, which is where you're specializing right now, has the journey to do that and to do it with the motivational backing of charity, has it changed your perception on anything in life? Has it made you wonder whether you should have got into it earlier? Has it pushed you to think a little bit differently or learn something new?
Um, I can't say I've ever felt that I should have done it sooner. No,
Mm.
um, it has put in me a burning desire to be successful because of the great need that I see in Africa. Africa's not the only place, but it's where I have many, many contacts. And when I see so much of their time and effort and their health going down the drain, as it were, um, I just feel that I cannot be too successful because the need is greater than any success I can get. If,
Outstanding.
put it this way, if 20 people said to me today, I'll give you £1,000 into your charity. I have a registered charity so that
Hmm.
you know I don't have access to the money other than for charitable purposes. If they said, I will give you £1,000, what will you do with it? That would mean £20,000 would buy a drilling rig and it would buy a motor to pull the drilling rig, and I could drill a well at least once every 3 weeks. So that's what, uh, 30 wells a year.
Hmm.
And I don't know, 100 families could drink from each well. And that is just through 20 people contributing now. So what if I was more successful and I was able to accumulate £20,000 next month? I could do another one.
Hmm.
There are many people in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Uganda now that are saying, when are you coming to drill a well? Well, if I start with a drilling rig in Kenya, he's not going to drive all the way to Uganda to drill a rig for them. We need to get a rig going there, and we need to get a drilling rig going in Tanzania.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's limitless, is the potential that we can help these people. I know that, some people would say, look at the political state of these countries, um, the presidents or the government are siphoning. I can't change that. But if I buy a rig and drill a hole, I can change the life of those people,
Hmm.
you know. And it's all right, people saying, no, I'm not going to give anything into Africa because just look at the state they're in, they've made their own bed, they can lie in it. You know, the people didn't ask to be born there. You didn't ask to be born probably in Staffordshire, or in England anyway. In England,
It was
um,
actually not far from Staffordshire.
you understand what I'm saying, though.
Mm.
That I know that things are not right, but actually, I'm not boasting, and I hope it doesn't sound like I am. I've an invitation, an open invitation to meet with the president of Kenya when I go over. I cancelled the last appointment because I couldn't afford the airfare.
Mm.
So that is another reason that gives me a greater urge to be successful trading, and then I can go and get some airfares because they've doubled in 12 months of the airfares.
Yeah, yeah. With COVID-19, airfares definitely haven't gone cheaper.
Yeah, so um, yeah, that's what motivates me to be successful.
Fantastic. If you were chatting to someone now, someone impressionable who was just about to embark on the journey of trading, what would you what would you tell them? How would you prepare them for the journey they're about to embark on?
Um, I would tell them to be very selective in the videos they watch because there are a lot of videos that say, I learned to trade in 3 days, and look, I've made 75,000 this month. Um, they didn't learn in 3 days. They just like the presentation and the platform to make videos.
Mhm.
And so I would tell them that in the first place to be very selective. And secondly, I would say that they have to accept that trading comes slowly and you have to work at it. Um, Mostly in the psychology, because we are wired in a way that um, we live by feeling. And if we allow trading to affect our feelings, um, we will just blow it. Instead of, we have to live in the trading realm by the principles that we have adapted to run our system of trading.
Fantastic. David, this has been an absolute pleasure. I want to say a big thank you from myself, from everyone at Trade Delicious, and also to everyone listening for taking the time out of your day to share with us your story, your ups, your downs, and really your ambition. What was the website to your charity?
It is David Brewer Ministries.uk.
Fantastic. Everyone listening at home or you're watching this on YouTube, it will be in the description below. If you guys want to go out and check out the wonderful work that David is doing over in Africa, head down to the description. David, thank you very much for joining us here at Traders of Money.
Thank you and God bless you.